We told you about the cruise. My mom forced me to change the wedding date for their trip. I still married on that day. 2 weeks later, they came to my house. I never thought I'd be the one to walk away. My wedding day should have been perfect. It was in many ways. Emma looked stunning, her eyes bright with tears as we exchanged vows in the garden of our first apartment building. Our friends surrounded us, champagne flowed, and the afternoon sun cast everything in gold. The string quartet played our song as she walked toward me, and I felt my heart might burst from the fullness of that moment. But there was a gaping hole in the crowd. My parents weren't there. Neither was my brother. I had gotten married without telling them. It was a decision that had been building for 28 years. That morning I stared at my phone for a full hour, wondering if I should call them, tell them to hurry over, that they could still make it. My thumb hovered over their names in my contacts. The weight of that potential connection made my hand shake. Emma found me like that, sitting on the edge of the bed in my suit, paralyzed by indecision. The morning light filtering through our bedroom curtains, illuminating the dust particles that seemed suspended in time, just like I was. "You don't owe them this," she whispered, her hand warm on my shoulder. Her eyes held no judgment, only understanding. She was right. I put the phone down. The ceremony was brief, beautiful. When I kissed Emma, our friends erupted in cheers. For a moment, I forgot about the emptiness at my side where my family should have stood. The absence that somehow took up so much space. But only for a moment. It had all started 6 months earlier when Emma and I announced our engagement. My parents' first question wasn't about Emma. It wasn't congratulations. It wasn't even about us. "When are you thinking?" Mom had asked, her voice tight with something I recognized immediately: calculation. I told them we were considering May, a spring wedding, small and intimate, just like Emma had always dreamed about. "Oh," Mom's voice dropped an octave. "That's when we're taking the cruise with Jason and his family, the one we've been planning for a year. Jason, my older brother, the golden child." My chest tightened. The familiar feeling returned, the one I'd known since childhood, the weight of always coming second, the subtle message that my milestones were negotiable, optional. "We could wait," I heard myself say. The words were automatic, programmed. Dad jumped in then. "That would be best. Family should be together for these things." I agreed. I always agreed. But something changed in the months that followed, a shift so subtle I almost missed it, a quiet awakening. Emma noticed it first. "Why should we plan our wedding around their vacation?" she asked one night as we lay in bed. A vacation they never even mentioned until now. The question hung in the air between us. Dangerous, revelatory. Why indeed, it triggered something. A flood of memories I'd been suppressing for years, each one rushing back with perfect clarity. My 8th birthday party, postponed because Jason had a basketball tournament. The disappointment I'd swallowed with a smile. High school graduation, my parents leaving early to catch Jason's college baseball game 3 states away. "He might get scouted," they'd explained, my secondary achievement. The countless dinner conversations dominated by Jason's achievements while mine barely warranted acknowledgement. His B+ in chemistry is more celebrated than my academic scholarship. The pattern was undeniable, crystal clear. I'd spent my life adjusting, accommodating, making myself smaller to fit into the corners of my parents' attention that Jason hadn't already filled, accepting the scraps of their approval and telling myself it was enough. My hands trembled as these realizations washed over me. The unfairness of it all suddenly is too much to bear. 28 years of looking away from this truth, and now I couldn't unsee it. "I don't want to wait," I told Emma the next morning over coffee. The words tasted different, like courage. Her eyes searched mine. "Are you sure?" I nodded. "May is perfect. If they can't make it, that's their choice." The words felt foreign in my mouth, dangerous, thrilling. We set the date, May 15th. I told my parents, bracing for the response. "But the cruise," Mom said immediately. "We told you about the cruise." "I know," I replied. My heart raced against my ribcage like it wanted to escape. "But this date works best for us." Silence on the other end of the line, heavy with implication. "I see," Dad finally said. His disappointment radiated through the phone. "Well, you'll have to do it without us then. I think they expected me to cave, to apologize and reschedule, to fall back into the familiar pattern of putting myself last. I didn't. The weeks passed. Tension built with every call, every text. My parents spoke about the wedding in hypotheticals. If we were there, what a shame we'll miss it. The emotional manipulation was obvious now that I could see it. The subtle guilt trips, the passive-aggressive comments, the way they weaponized their absence. 2 weeks before the wedding, Mom called. "We've been thinking maybe we could reschedule the cruise." My breath caught. Hope fluttered in my chest, unwelcome but persistent. But Jason's kids have exams right after, and he's already arranged time off work. It would be such a hassle for them. Of course, Jason's convenience, always the priority. "Don't change your plans," I said. The words felt like glass in my throat. "We understand." But I didn't understand. Not really. What I understood was that I needed to break the cycle, to stop expecting different results from the same dynamics, to protect my heart from more of the same hurt. So on the morning of May 15th, I married Emma in a ceremony my parents knew nothing about. I didn't tell them we had kept the original date. I let them believe we had postponed, that their absence had necessitated a change in our plans. It felt like freedom and heartbreak. They discovered the truth a week later through a mutual friend who innocently mentioned our beautiful wedding on social media. A careless comment under a photo, the secret exposed with casual cruelty. My phone exploded with texts and calls. I let them go to voicemail, watching the notifications pile up with a strange detachment. "How could you do this to us? We're your parents. This is unforgivable." Not one message asked if I was happy, if the day had been special, if Emma had looked beautiful, if our vows had meant something. I turned my phone off and held Emma close that night, tears streaming down my face. She wiped them away without a word. She understood. The grief of losing something I'd never really had. The confrontation came 2 weeks later when they returned from their cruise, tanned and refreshed and furious. They showed up at our apartment unannounced. The doorbell rang on a quiet Sunday afternoon. The sight of them through the peephole made my stomach drop. "You need to explain yourself," Dad demanded when I opened the door. His face flushed with anger. Mom was crying. "How could you exclude us from the most important day of your life?" I invited them in. My hands shook as I made coffee none of us would drink, the familiar routine in unfamiliar territory. "You excluded yourselves," I said quietly. "You chose a vacation with Jason over my wedding." "That's not fair," Mom snapped. "We had planned that trip for a year, I know." I cut her off, something I'd never dared do before. "Just like you planned to attend Jason's baseball game instead of staying for my entire graduation ceremony." They exchanged glances, confused as if they had no memory of it, but I remembered every slight, every time I came second, every moment of invisibility. "That was different," Dad said. "Your brother was more important," I finished. "He always has been." The words hung in the air between us, heavy with decades of truth. The elephant we'd been living with for so long suddenly named. "That's ridiculous," Mom whispered, but her eyes darted away from mine, unable to meet my gaze. "Is it?" I asked. "Name one time, just one, when you chose me over him." Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. "We love you both equally," Dad finally said, the standard parental response, the one in the handbook. But it wasn't true. We all knew it wasn't true. Love might have been equal in theory, but attention, priorities, consideration, those had never been equally distributed. "You should have waited," Mom insisted, changing tactics. "If you really wanted us there, you would have waited." And there it was, the crux of it all. I had always waited, always accommodated, always accepted less. Not anymore. "I'm done waiting," I said. My voice sounded different, stronger, more on my own. "I'm done being an afterthought in my own family." Mom started crying harder. Dad put his arm around her, glaring at me, the familiar tableau, her tears, his anger, my guilt. "You're being selfish," he said. "You've hurt your mother terribly." The familiar guilt rose up in me, the programmed response to their disapproval, the instinct to apologize, to make it right, to smooth things over at my own expense. But something had changed. I saw the manipulation for what it was, the way her tears were used as weapons, the way his anger was meant to keep me in line. "I think you should leave," I said quietly. They looked stunned. This wasn't how these confrontations usually ended. I always apologize, always worked to regain their approval, always accepted the role of villain to maintain family peace. You don't mean that, Mom said, but I did. I need some time, I told them. Maybe we all do. They left in a cloud of hurt feelings and indignation, Mom's parting words designed to wound. I hope you're happy with what you've done to this family. The door closed behind them. I stood in the silent apartment, heart pounding against my ribs. Was I happy? No. Relieved? Maybe. The weeks that followed were hard, harder than I expected. The absence of family, even a dysfunctional one, left a void that echoed with doubts. Jason called once to tell me I was being dramatic, that I needed to apologize to our parents. His voice carried the confidence of someone who had never had to question his place. They've given you everything, he said. Had they? Or had they given me what was left after giving him everything? I didn't respond. Another first. Emma worried about me. I caught her watching me when she thought I wasn't looking. Concern etched across her face. Are you okay? She asked one night as we got ready for bed, the routine of toothbrushes and face washing suddenly poignant. I considered lying, saying yes like I always did, hiding the turmoil to make others comfortable. No, I admitted, but I think I will be. The truth was I felt lost, adrift without the familiar patterns of my family dynamics, unhealthy as they were. They had shaped me, defined me for so long. Without them, who was I? I questioned my decision daily. Had I overreacted? Was I the villain in this story, the selfish, ungrateful son they accused me of being? Some mornings I woke up determined to call, to apologize, to slip back into my assigned role. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't. Isn't that what they say? But then I'd remember the feeling of standing with Emma that day in May, making vows that were about our future, not my past, the freedom in that moment, the authenticity of it. 3 months after the wedding, Mom texted, "We miss you." That was all. No acknowledgement of the deeper issues, no recognition of the patterns that had brought us here. Just 3 words that somehow carried the weight of expectation. The assumption that I would come back, apologize, resume my role. I stared at those 3 words for a long time, my thumb hovering over the keyboard just like it had on my wedding day. I missed them too. The idea of them, at least. The parents I wished they could be. The family I had always wanted but never quite had. But I couldn't go back, not without something changing, not without acknowledgement. I miss you too, I replied. But I need you to understand why this happened. Her response came quickly, as if she'd been waiting. We understand you chose your wife over your family. My throat tightened. She still didn't see it, still framed it as a competition, still missed the point entirely. No, I typed. I chose myself for the first time. She didn't reply. Maybe she couldn't. Maybe the concept was too foreign, too threatening to the family structure they had built. The holidays loomed ahead. The first I'd spend without them. The thought filled me with both dread and a strange sense of possibility. Emma and I made plans of our own. A small Thanksgiving with friends, Christmas morning just the 2 of us before visiting her family, creating new traditions untainted by old dynamics. We can create our own traditions, she suggested one night as we discussed our plans. Ones that make us happy. The concept was revolutionary, happiness as the goal, not approval, not keeping the peace, just happiness. I found myself imagining future holidays, children of our own someday perhaps, the freedom to build a family culture based on authenticity rather than appearance, on emotional honesty rather than prescribed roles. It was terrifying and exhilarating. 6 months after my wedding day, I'm still figuring it out, still fighting the ingrained need to seek my parents' approval, still questioning if I did the right thing, still mourning the relationship I wished we could have had. But when I look at Emma, when I consider the life we're building together, I know the answer. Some days are harder than others. I see families in restaurants, parents beaming at their adult children, and my chest aches with loss. The idealized version of family I've always wanted flickering like a mirage before me. I've started therapy. Unpacking 30 years of family dynamics takes time. excavating the beliefs that were planted so early that I was less deserving, less important, less worthy of attention, requires patience. I've learned that what happened wasn't just about the wedding date. It was about a lifetime of subtle messages that I mattered less, that my needs were secondary, that my role was to accommodate, to adjust, to accept less. My therapist asked me recently what I would say to my parents if they were truly willing to listen, if they could hear me without defensiveness or denial. I thought about it for a long time. I would tell them that I never wanted to choose between them and my happiness, I finally said. But they forced that choice over and over again. Maybe someday we'll find our way back to each other. Maybe they'll understand what drove me to make such a drastic choice. Maybe I'll understand them better too. But it won't be the same relationship. It can't be, because I can't be the same person who contorted himself to fit into their expectations, who accepted scraps of attention and convinced himself it was a feast, who betrayed his own needs to maintain an illusion of family harmony. Last week, I drove past the baseball field where Jason played as a kid, where I spent countless hours on the bleachers watching him shine, where I learned to be a spectator in my own family. I pulled over and sat there for a while, remembering the cheers for him, the way my parents' faces lit up with pride, the way I tried to replicate that success, that magic formula for their attention, but never quite could. It wasn't Jason's fault. He played the role assigned to him just as I played mine. We were both products of a dynamic neither of us created. But understanding doesn't erase the hurt, the years of invisibility, the message repeated in 1,000 subtle ways that I wasn't quite enough. Emma suggested I write my parents a letter, not to send, necessarily, but to articulate the things I've never been able to say, the emotions that get tangled in confrontation. I sat down to write it last night. The blank page was intimidating. "Dear Mom and Dad," I began, and then stopped. The formality of it feeling wrong somehow, I started again. "I wish you could have seen me." The words flowed then, all the moments of invisibility, all the times I needed them and they weren't there. All the ways I tried to earn the love that should have been unconditional. I wrote about the wedding, how it felt to make that decision, the mixture of liberation and loss. I wrote about Emma, how she was the first person who truly saw me, who didn't need me to be less so she could be more. I wrote about the future, the family we might create, the values we would prioritize, the cycle we would break. I didn't send it, maybe I never will, but writing it felt like another step toward healing, toward claiming my own narrative. Yesterday my phone rang, Mom's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer, almost let it go to voicemail like all the others, but something made me pick up. "Hello?" My voice sounded strained even to my own ears. "Hi," she said, a pause. "How are you?" Such a simple question, such a complex answer. "I'm getting by," I said, truthful but guarded. Another pause, longer this time. "I've been thinking about what you said," she finally continued. "About choosing yourself." My heart skipped a beat. Was this acknowledgement, understanding? "I still don't agree with how you handled things," she added quickly. "But I'm trying to understand." It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the full recognition I wanted, but it was something, a crack in the defense, a willingness to consider another perspective. "Thank you," I said. "That means a lot." We talked for a few minutes more, surface level, weather and work, but without the usual undercurrent of tension, without the unspoken accusations. When we hung up, I sat with the feeling, not resolution, not reconciliation, but possibility. A beginning, perhaps. I told Emma about the call over dinner. Her eyes lit up with cautious hope. "It's a start," she said. "If they're willing to listen even a little." I nodded, not wanting to hope too much, not wanting to set myself up for disappointment. But maybe, just maybe, something was shifting. Not just in them, but in me. In my willingness to engage without abandoning myself. In my ability to hold boundaries while still leaving room for connection. To everyone who's ever felt invisible in their own family, your feelings are valid. Your needs matter. Sometimes the hardest boundaries to draw are the ones around your own heart. Sometimes the most difficult person to stand up for is yourself. If I had known then what I know now, would I have done things differently? I don't think so. My wedding day wasn't perfect. There were people missing who should have been there. chairs that remained empty, photos with gaps where the family should have stood. But it was authentic. It was the first day of a life where I valued myself enough to stand in the sun, not in my brother's shadow, where I chose truth over pretense, reality over illusion, and that makes it perfect enough for me.